Hello everyone, today is 7th of October. Now it's 10 past 9 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for the day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Later on today on YouTube and Rumble, I will publish new episode of Headlines, which is basically a short summary of the news, at least some of the news that I will talk about in more detail during the second news update, which will be published on my Patreon page. And I really hope if you are not yet a member of our Patreon community, you will consider to support my work in the long term and subscribe to my Patreon. It's not just a second news updates there, but also some other content. For example, yesterday I published new episode of behind the scenes for entire week, and today I will start making another episode which will be published next weekend. And these behind the scenes are, as it said, just short videos, compilation of the short videos about my week. So whenever I go somewhere or see some interesting, I'm making videos, and it is hopefully entertaining. So yes, that's being said, let's talk about news now, dear friends. If you're interested to support my work in long terms and subscribe to my Patreon or Boosty page for that matter, I'm publishing same videos on both platforms. Links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. Monthly subscription on Patreon starts from $5 and on Boosty from about $6. It depends always on exchange rate, obviously. That's being said, let's talk about news now. And first of all, I'll give you this news from TASS news agency that during the previous night, Russian air defense systems intercepted and suppressed 21 drones that were launched by Kyiv regime to strike deep inside the Russian territory. 12 drones were intercepted over the Crimean Peninsula, 6 drones over the territory of the Kursk region, also 1 drone over the Belgorod region, 1 drone over the Bryansk region, 1 drone over the Voronezh region. At this point, no reports in Russian media about casualties on the ground or any more or less significant damage, although if any update on that, of course, I will share additional information on my Telegram channel during the day and in next updates. RIA Novosti is also reporting that this morning there was explosions in Kiev. Little earlier, before I see this news, several sources reported that Russian aerospace forces launched Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, and when I see this news, first thought that come to my mind was maybe Russian side targeted some strategical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, military or logistics infrastructure inside the Kyiv. Although later on information was published, and I shared this information on my Telegram, that there was explosions in Starokonstantinov airfield in Khmelnytsky region. So probably those Kinzhal launches were directed towards that airfield, which is, according to some rumors, are housing US-made F-16 fighter jets. And during the previous 2 weeks, there were several times when Russian side conducted these long-range precise strikes with exactly Kinzhal hypersonic missiles towards this airfield. And the rumors were that from 5 to 8 F-16s of the Kyiv regime were destroyed as a result of these strikes. When it comes to Kyiv itself, at this point, there are no additional information what exactly was targeted by Russian armed forces. Air defense was working actively in Kyiv. RT is also reporting that Zelensky rules out bargaining with Russia. So Kyiv has no plans to cede any territories to achieve peace in their conflict with Russia. Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has stated he made the comment in response to media reports claiming that the West is considering backing a settlement in which Moscow retains de facto control over some areas formerly part of Ukraine. In a video address on Saturday, Zelensky announced that Ukrainian officials would discuss Kiev's so-called victory plan with the Western backers next week, claiming it would help strengthen their country, especially in their military sphere. Kiev has yet to release their much hyped roadmap to the public. Twitter has promised to do so. Multiple media reports, however, claim that the plan includes NATO-like Western security guarantees for Ukraine, the continuation of the Kiev's incursion into Kursk region to serve as a territorial bargaining chip, deliveries of specific Western-made advanced weapons, and more international financial aid for Kiev regime. Basically, this Zelensky's plan, so-called victory plan, is a wish list, nothing more than that. And I believe Zelensky reacted by saying that the Kiev regime will not conduct any negotiations with the Russian side and will not consider ceding territories. This is a response to recent statements of Jens Stoltenberg, former head of NATO, who basically directly said in his first interview after leaving the office position of the Secretary General of the NATO, when he said that Kiev should consider ceding some territories to achieve peace, and he spoke about example of Finland, for example, during that interview, mentioning that in 39, it was, I believe, there was a military conflict between Soviet Union and Finland. In 40, agreement was reached between the sides, and Finland ceded certain territories, including biggest city at the time, second biggest city at the time in Finland. And Stoltenberg was arguing that even though Finland lost some territories, it maintained statehood. So that was example that he was giving to Kiev regime. And this is Zelensky's reaction, that he is not going to talk with Moscow, and he is all about this victory plan, this wish list. Total madness, dear friends, obviously. And when he is talking about next week's talks with the Western leaders, he was talking about most likely an upcoming gathering in Ramstein military in Germany, which will take place, I believe. And there are rumors that this week, during that meeting in Ramstein, Western ruling class may basically authorize long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory. I'm a bit skeptical of that, because Moscow was very clear that if any such strikes will take place with the NATO weapons deep inside the Russian territory, Moscow will consider it as a direct attack of NATO member states that are producing those missiles on Russia, and there will be consequences for that. So therefore, I think cool heads will prevail in US, in UK, in France, at least I hope so, and there will be no such a decision made. But still, rumors are that we might hear announcement about authorization of these long-range strikes deep inside the Russian territory this week. And probably Zelensky is referring to that meeting, but yet again, I'm skeptical that there will be such authorization given, although only time will tell. Also, we have this report from RIA Novosti that Netherlands announced that they delivered to Kiev regime first batch of their F-16 fighter jets from 24 promised. This is second country, if I remember correctly, that openly stated that they delivered the F-16s to Kiev regime. Denmark was first, I believe. And this explains, dear friends, this report explains these rumors that Russian armed forces during the previous strikes on Starokonstantinov airfield managed to destroy from 5 to 8 F-16s. because in the first batch that Kiev regime received, there was only 5 F-16s, right? And I was wondering from where these other 3 planes came from. One was shut down by Patriot air defense systems, according to some reports. Another 4 to 7 was destroyed as a result of Russian strikes. And now this information, this statement from Netherlands, make it a little bit clear. Probably Russian armed forces destroyed F-16s that were delivered to Kiev regime from Netherlands. And let's see what additional information we will receive about today's strikes on Starokonstantinov airfield. There possibly some more F-16s or some additional military equipment, including planes and helicopters, were destroyed by Russian strikes. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Russian armed forces conducted successful long-range precise strike on container ship. This is about Starokonstantinov, dear friend. Yes, Russian Air Force conducted yesterday also a long-range strike on Starokonstantinov and also on a fuel depot in Odessa region. Although when it comes to Odessa region, there are more additional important information that as a result of Iskander-M strike, container ship was destroyed in Odessa region, which was carrying in containers weapons and munition for Kiev regime. This is a video of that strike. Let's watch it. So as you can see, Russia had a drone over the area. There is a certain movement in this port. Unloading is being prepared of their weapons, and then Russian Iskander strike, and that's it, really. So Kiev regime lost, I guess, significant volume of weapons and munition, and also, as I said, there was reports yesterday also about Russian strikes on Starokonstantinov airfield, which is in Khmelnytsky region. Let me show you on the map, dear friends, that airfield there. So it's Western Ukraine, and this is it. That's the airfield that we are talking about. This is Soviet era airfield, and the planes, there are underground facilities there, and planes are inside these fortified facilities for protection, and that's how they look, dear friends. These fortified facilities, and that's why it does take quite a lot of strikes from Russian side to neutralize all their aviation equipment that Kiev regime and NATO are storing in this airfield. So let's see, maybe some additional information will be available. I'm not going to be surprised at all if we will learn that Russian armed forces managed to destroy some additional F-16, US-made F-16 fighter bombers as a result of these strikes. Also, dear friends, interesting news here that a former high-ranking officer of the Kiev regime's secret services, SBU, Alexander Shelest, is stating that West is laughing at the Kiev regime now due to this Kursk invasion because none of their initial goals were achieved, and no one really understands why these units of the Kiev regime still being sacrificed in this area in the Kursk salient. So it is good to know. It is good to know that at least some people in Kiev are realizing that they become a kind of laughing stock with their crazy ideas that they gonna enter Kursk region and they gonna use this temporarily occupied territory as a kind of bargaining chip. Russian armed forces will continue counter-terrorist operation and will decimate invading forces as they already do. And I remind you, dear friends, that according to Russia's defense ministry, Kiev regime and NATO mercenaries already lost about 21,000 military personnel in Kursk salient area since the beginning of this invasion, which is at least 5 full-blooded brigades, even more, 5, 6 full-blooded brigades in terms of Ukraine, in terms of Kiev regime, because nowadays each brigade in armed forces of Kiev regime only accounts for about 2,000 to 3,000 military personnel, while in the rest of the world, one brigade is usually 4,000 to 5,000 military personnel. Anyways, it is interesting to know that there are some individuals that waking up inside the Kiev-controlled territory also, and also in the West, and are realizing that all this story of invasion into Kursk region was a fatal mistake on part of Kiev regime. And I said many times before that, in my personal opinion, invasion into Kursk region is a beginning, can be as a beginning of the end of Kiev armed forces as a more or less capable entity, and also Kiev regime and the modern Ukraine itself. This is beginning of the end of all of it. And since that invasion, dear friends, you know how successful Russian armed forces were on Pokrovsk sector of the front line, on South Donetsk sector of the front line. Just a couple of days ago, Russian troops liberated Uglidar, major stronghold of the Kiev regime on South Donetsk sector. Let's continue. Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that former Russian president and the current deputy chairman of the Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, stated that if Belarus comes under attack, it will be extremely difficult for Moscow to refuse Minsk to deploy tactical nuclear weapons. And this statement of high-ranking Russian official, deputy chairman of the Security Council, clearly should be warning for everybody in Warsaw or in Brussels, in Washington, in London, that are thinking, and inside the Kiev also, that are thinking about attacking Belarus, and they clearly do think about that, about opening kind of second front. And yesterday it was, or day before, I even reported, isn't it, that in representative of ruling party in Kiev, or representative of the Zelensky's party, was openly discussing possibility of opening a second front, kind of, in Belarus. Openly, he was openly talking about attacking Belarus and starting military campaign against this republic. And I guess Medvedev reacted on those statements, that if Belarus comes under attack, then all options are open, including deployment of tactical nuclear weapons, which is, I mean, as clear and as strong a warning that one may issue, isn't it? I mean, there cannot be any more stronger warnings, right? Question is, are Western ruling elites capable of listening? And unfortunately, many of us probably will agree that it is highly likely that Western ruling class is just unable to listen to anybody. So escalation might happen in direction of Belarus also, and well, Moscow is very clear that in that case, Belarus will demand deployment of tactical nukes, and Moscow will allow Belarus to do so, most likely. Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that Russian Russian Navy warship New Strashimi, Coast Guard basically, arrived in South Africa to participate in naval exercises with their South African and Chinese sailors in combined exercises, which is great news, sir. Obviously, all three countries are members of the BRICS, and cooperation between the countries are strengthening, not just in terms of economy, but also in terms of security, which is good news, I believe. Although, of course, Western ruling class not gonna like any of it, understandably so. I mean, they hate everything and everybody that can somehow challenge their rules-based order, whatever that means. And dear friends, before I continue, let me notice, if I may, that this project with several channels on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram. Is completely subscriber funded, and if you like my work, if you like my channels and want to support, uh, you can do it. You can do it. You can join uh, Patreons. You can become a Patreon and support with donation through PayPal or Boosty platform. This is the Boosty platform. Or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and the Boosty page. All the links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And this is, dear friends, as I mentioned in the beginning, new episode, sixth episode of Behind the Scenes for a whole last week. There are some fragments from entire last week. I hope community on Patreon and Boosty that video entertaining, because mainly these behind the scenes programs are somewhat informative, obviously, but hopefully also entertaining. As I said, all the links, dear friends, are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And I really hope you will consider to join our Patreon community, because if we will reach 200 members, if our community on Patreon will reach 200 members, most likely this project would not be in a survival mode. This project will manage to, make next step. I don't even know how to say it, but it is extremely important, dear friends. I mean, it is extremely important. So it's up to you. And many thanks, obviously, many thanks to all the members of our community who were supporting and who continues to support my work. Truly grateful for this unique opportunity to work in this field of news and political commentary. Thank you very much. And I'm trying on my behalf to create as informative and interesting programs as I can. And I'm working on myself. I'm trying to improve programming to make more content. So that's been said, let's talk about some more news. And RT is reporting that Israel bombs Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters. So the Israeli Defense Force said they have hit Hezbollah's intelligence compound in Beirut during their latest series of airstrikes on Lebanon. Israeli jets struck the pro-Palestinian armed group's intelligence headquarters, as well as command centers and additional terrorist infrastructure sites, the IDF said in a statement early on Monday. So that's what IDF is reporting about. And also Hezbollah is reporting, Lebanese Hezbollah, that as a result of hostility between Israeli and Lebanese forces, or Hezbollah's forces, Israel lost 25 military personnel. So as it was predictable, unfortunately, the escalation is nowhere in sight, and we only observing constant escalation day in, day out, and there is a still high risk. There is a still high risk that our entire region will be engulfed in a conflict. Let's hope it will not happen, but risk is definitely presented. The Kommersant newspaper is reporting that Nasser, second time in a row, delayed their descent on the Crew Dragon spacecraft from SpaceX, which will bring back to Earth US astronauts and Russian cosmonaut. Let's go through this news in little more detail. So, space agency NASA reported that the undocking of the Crew Dragon spacecraft will take place on October 10 instead of the 8th. American astronauts Matthew Dominic, Michael Barrett, and Janet Epps, as well as Russian Alexander Grebenkin, are expected to return from their ISS, International Space Station. Initially, the Crew Dragon Undocking was scheduled for October 7, but it was postponed for a day. The reason was weather conditions near the coast of the Florida, where the ship is being driven. Okay, so there are some issues with the undocking of this Crew Dragon, but I guess these issues will be resolved, and U.S. astronauts and Russian cosmonaut, which is the same, by the way. We just call uh, cosmonauts, and in US there is astronaut name. In China, taikonauts, by the way. In China, cosmonauts being called taikonauts. So, okay, that's been said. That's being said. Rianost is also reporting that there are magnetic storm, by the way, right now on the planet. And weather sensitive members of our community may feel it. It's not going to be some extreme magnetic storm, but everyone who is weather sensitive should take some measures to be on the safe side. So a weak magnetic storm began on Monday night. It will end in the afternoon. Its maximum intensity will fluctuate between weak and medium, said Michael Lewis, a leading specialist at the Phobos Weather Center. In his Telegram channel, he wrote about it. He said that the magnetic storm, the beginning of the which all international forecasting centers expected late on Tuesday evening, began only last night. So, okay, there are magnetic storms, and if you are, as I said, weather sensitive, just take some measures, be on safe side. Me personally, I feel, by the way, whenever it's magnetic storm or whatever that is, I feel it because my pressure starts go up. So therefore, it is necessary to take some precautionary measures. And this is it. Although magnetic storm itself is not going to be something extreme. So this is it. This is it. I hope it's a short update. It is short update, dear friends. It is short update. Hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything or any topic. Let's try again and influence algorithm if we can. Yesterday we managed to do so, dear friends. Yesterday's update has over 9,000 views. At least that's what YouTube shows. Maybe real views are significantly higher, but YouTube shows 9,000 plus. So we managed to influence algorithm yesterday, and maybe we will manage to do so today also. So if you can, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. And finally, yes, as I said, if you like my work, you can support the friends. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.